Caroline Leavitt strode onto the brightly lit set with the air of someone who owned the stage. She had spent a career mastering televised debates, talking over opponents, seizing control of every exchange, and delivering razor-sharp barbs with practiced ease. This morning, at precisely 8:40 a.m. on a Thursday, she planned to do the same. For panelists, 3 cameras and a thrumming control room completed the tableau. The producer, standing behind the monitors, later confessed that from the moment the guests took their seats, we all felt a storm brewing. Opposite Caroline sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, pen poised, lips pressed together. She didn't fidget. She didn't twitch. She simply waited. Caroline, by contrast, looked like a gale-force wind ready to rip the sails off anything in her path. Within seconds of going live, Caroline tore into the segment, interrupting the moderator, bouncing from topic to topic, her voice rising with each passing second. Her strategy was unmistakable: wear down the newcomer, drown her out with sarcastic quips, and paint her as an emotional hothead undeserving of the national spotlight. But Caroline's tactics depended on Jasmine reacting, and Jasmine remained still. Then the moderator, briefly gagged by Caroline's rapid-fire delivery, finally turned to Jasmine. "Congresswoman Crockett, your response?" he asked. Jasmine leaned forward, her tone calm, her gaze locked on Caroline. "I'd like to respond," she began. "But first, I think we should consider why my opponent turns up the volume every time I speak." The studio fell silent. Jasmine reached into a navy blue folder resting on her lap. No one had noticed it until that moment. From it she withdrew a single sheet of paper, all but invisible until that instant. Handing it to the moderator, she said evenly, "This is an internal campaign memo, approved by Ms. Leavitt's team 2 weeks ago. It's a playbook for undermining women of color by accusing us of being unhinged rather than debating our policies." Caroline's mouth flew open, but no sound followed. Jasmine continued, "The document wasn't meant for public view. Someone leaked it to me. I verified its authenticity before coming here. If we're going to discuss public discourse, let's be honest about who crafts the rules off camera." For a moment, the cameras lingered on Caroline's stunned expression. Then she sprang up. "You're lying. This is a setup," she shouted, her composure fracturing. The studio floor manager signaled for calm. Caroline, teetering between fury and confusion, sank back into her seat. Jasmine rested her folder on her knee and said, "I'm not here to play games. I'm reading your team's plan, written in black and white. If that bothers you, ask why it was ever conceived." The broadcast cut to commercial, but the damage was done. A single sheet of paper had upended expectations and shifted the power on that set forever. 5 days before the explosive episode, Jasmine had slipped away from the Capitol's relentless pace to meet her oldest friend, Shelby Barnes, at a nondescript cafe in Des Moines, Iowa. Shelby wasn't politically savvy. She was a software engineer who saw through pretenses and recognized human truths beneath the polished surface. As Jasmine sipped her coffee, Shelby leaned across the table. "Caroline isn't just provoking you," she said. "She's setting a trap. She wants you to react so she can label you irrational." Jasmine closed her eyes, recalling mounting whispers of backroom strategy sessions in Caroline's campaign where her name was repeated like a punchline. Days earlier, an anonymous email had arrived in her inbox. No greeting, no context, only an attachment named Draft Messaging Memo Internal, PDF. Hesitant, she forwarded it to a trusted media confidant rather than blasting it out. 3 days later, his text arrived. "It's real. It's brutal." The memo lay open on Jasmine's dresser that night. It outlined a step-by-step plan: derail Crockett by any means, mock her tone, call her over-emotional, then let pundits declare her incompetent on live television. One line read, "If they speak out, call them impulsive. If they stay silent, call them rehearsed. They lose either way." Jasmine's blood ran cold. Hundreds of women of color had faced those coded character assassinations, but she'd never seen it laid bare so clinically. She tucked the memo into a folder, determined to wait for the right moment. On the Monday before the broadcast, she told her team, "Trust me, let me handle the panel." They exchanged worried glances. She revealed nothing else. Meanwhile, social media buzzed with teasers. Don't miss Thursday's clash between two of Congress's sharpest voices. Everyone anticipated Caroline dominating. No one suspected Jasmine carried in her bag the single most incriminating weapon she'd ever possessed. Thursday dawned crisp and clear over Scottsdale, Arizona. The studio, situated in a suburban office park, felt neutral. No coast, no hometown advantage. Jasmine arrived early, greeting crew members with soft smiles before retreating to the green room, where she reviewed the memo one last time. That navy folder never left her side. Caroline's entrance was the opposite. Flanked by a media consultant and an assistant, she batted away greetings, laughing and waving like she was at a campaign rally. Catching sight of Jasmine, she swept past without a glance, as if Jasmine were invisible. 10 minutes before airtime, the floor manager asked Jasmine if she had any materials for the host. Jasmine produced the folder quietly. "It's relevant information, not an ambush," she said. The manager hesitated, then nodded. "As long as it's not a stunt." On set, scripts were read, cameras checked, and producers traded uneasy looks. Caroline smirked at Jasmine's folder. "Notes," she jeered. Jasmine's voice, calm and steady, replied, "I always come prepared." When the red live light ignited, the moderator opened with typical pleasantries, introducing both women. Initial questions flowed predictably: border security, infrastructure, education. Caroline's responses were razor-sharp, crafted for sound bites. Then the pivotal question arrived: how do we rebuild dialogue when debate devolves into personal attacks? Caroline slammed her fist gently on the desk. "I believe in straightforward debate. I'm not interested in finger-pointing and identity politics." Jasmine paused, tapped her pen on the folder. "Then perhaps the better question is who profits from personal attacks and how they're engineered." Caroline cocked an eyebrow. "Explain that." Jasmine drew the sheet from her folder, sliding it across the desk. "This is real. An internal memo from your campaign. Not about policy. About provoking, branding us emotional so you never have to win a genuine debate." Caroline's composure wavered. "That's fake, fabricated," she scoffed. Jasmine didn't argue.
"You decide," she said.
"The dates are clear. Senior advisors' signatures are here. My name and 2 other Congresswomen's, spelled out as use sparingly, label combustible under pressure." The moderator paged through the document, eyes widening. Caroline lurched forward. "You staged this. You want clicks. You want headlines. You don't care about truth," she accused. Jasmine leaned forward, voice unshakable. "The truth doesn't need theatrics." Caroline jumped up again, ranting about unfair setups as the floor manager frantically signaled for a break. The audience heard every word. By the time the show cut to commercials, social media was alight. Clip after clip of Jasmine's calm versus Caroline's unraveling spread like wildfire. Newsrooms raced to analyze the memo. Campaign headquarters mobilized damage control. But the true impact had already struck. The genteel veneer of televised politics was stripped away, revealing the mechanics of manipulation beneath. That evening, Carla Barnes, the mole who'd leaked the memo, spoke exclusively to a local Toledo affiliate. Her voice trembled as she described how she'd grown uneasy watching the campaign's tactics. "It wasn't about winning hearts with policies," she said. It was about manufacturing spectacle and humiliation. Former staffers from Florida and Ohio corroborated. Terms like camera-ready rage and meltdown pattern were standard. Training modules taught consultants how to label a Black woman's silence, calculating her passion irrational. Meanwhile, a 4-year-old clip resurfaced. Caroline, in an earlier debate, telling a Black colleague, "You're being overly sensitive." In 2021, it barely registered. Now, that line echoed as a refrain, proof the tactics were neither new nor isolated. The next morning, Caroline appeared in a pre-recorded apology on her campaign website. Against a plain white backdrop, she sounded composed, contrite. I deeply regret my behavior on the panel," she began. "I was misled about the document's origin and did not approve its content. I take full responsibility and apologize." Social media reacted swiftly. Some accepted her words. Many dismissed them as too little, too late. In Washington, a bipartisan group of lawmakers introduced legislation dubbed the Crockett Clause, mandating transparency in campaign communications and penalizing the use of under-the-radar playbooks targeting identity rather than ideas. Editorials in The Atlantic and Politico hailed the moment as a turning point. Crockett didn't need to brawl. Her calm shattered the facade, one columnist wrote. Psychology professors analyzed the exchange as a case study in the power of composure over chaos. Civics teachers began assigning video clips from that fateful Thursday as coursework. Jasmine, however, returned to Texas without fanfare. She hosted a modest community meeting in Tyler, no cameras, no press. When an elderly attendee asked how she kept her cool live on air, Jasmine replied softly, "I remembered I wasn't just representing myself. I was giving voice to everyone silenced by those tactics." A young man followed up, "Is it fair that you had to stay perfect while she could rage unchecked?" Jasmine nodded, "Maybe not. But until we change the rules, I'll keep speaking with clarity rather than fury." Caroline's political future remained uncertain. She spoke once more at a media ethics conference in Charleston, admitting, "I lost control of the narrative, and it cost me." But much of the public had already decided. The woman who couldn't hold her tongue when faced with truth had lost more than a debate. She'd lost trust. As for Jasmine Crockett, she didn't bask in victory. She continued her work on the Judiciary Committee, championing criminal justice reform and educational equity. Yet in every town hall and committee room, she carried with her the navy blue folder, now a symbol of accountability. And whenever a new colleague complained of being called too sensitive, she simply smiled and said, "Tell me about it." In a world craving spectacle, Jasmine Crockett reminded everyone that sometimes the most potent weapon is silence, and the willingness to let truth speak for itself.